It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. On today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Quinnipiac assistant women's basketball coach, Jen Fay. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Brandon. I'm ready to go. Let's do this thing. Excited to talk some basketball.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in your coaching career?
Yeah, it's funny actually when I get asked this question. I actually didn't know that I wanted to coach until a couple of years ago. So I just finished year 2 at Quinnipiac as a full-time assistant coach. I've been there for a while now. I'm sure we'll get to it, but I played at Quinnipiac. So this has been home for going into year 8 right now, I believe. So been here for a while, but can't say that I knew I wanted to coach when I was younger. Just wanted to be around the game and obviously playing here. And it was my last year as a player. I was kind of like, all right, I was in the process of getting my teaching degree. But something about basketball, I just wanted to be able to stick around and wasn't really ready to let it go just yet, and had a couple opportunities to go overseas, but had 2 ACLs and my knees were just not having it. And again, I had to finish a degree. So the overseas plan didn't really work out, but Coach Fabry, our head coach, who's been here, she's going into year 28, has built this program from a Division II school to now a Division I mid-major powerhouse. And she was fortunate enough to offer me the opportunity to stay around the team in the year following graduation, because again, I was going to finish my master's and had another year of student teaching to do. So I would go to school, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., a normal school day, worked at a middle school. And then right after that, I'd come right up to the arena as many days as I could, and try and get into the office and, walk in and see what was going on and try and help out. On the weekends, I was there for practice. I went to games, and I was a graduate assistant essentially in the best way possible. So really grateful for her to let me have the opportunity to stay around the team for that season. And then after that, I was like, wow, okay, I like teaching. I was 8th grade social studies, but I liked going to practice a little bit more. So again, I always say this, I like teaching basketball more than I like teaching social studies at this point. So I knew from that year on that coaching is definitely the route that I wanted to go. And, I'm just really glad that I made that decision because I've absolutely loved it.
What was it like, obviously, getting to put on that Quinnipiac jersey?
Yeah, so I grew up in Long Island, and I went to high school in New York City, actually. So I got a little bit of both in terms of the really competitive New York City basketball atmosphere and environment, played against some really, really top talent. Ended up committing to Quinnipiac and had a really, really good 4 years there. We won 4 championships. I actually played for 5 years. I had a redshirt year. But putting on the uniform for the first time was awesome. Anyone can attest to it. Looking back as a freshman, you're just like so nervous for that first game, your college career starting. And I don't think I played very much in my first game at all, but putting the uniform on in the locker room was pretty cool. And again, I was just grateful for the opportunity to obviously get a Division I scholarship that so many players, want. At this point, right? Like everyone that's playing these days is looking for that scholarship, and not everyone is able to get one. So I was grateful. I was excited. I was nervous, and I was just glad I touched the floor a little bit. I think I got in at the end of the game a little bit, so got the nerves out there. But it was unbelievable, and my career, which we'll touch on, was obviously the best experience that I've had to this point.
As a player, what was it like going to the Sweet 16 in 2016?
Yeah. So, you just asked about putting the uniform on for the first time, right, as a freshman. That was an awesome experience. Going to the Sweet 16 is the best experience I've had in my basketball career thus far, without a doubt. That is something that not that many players get to experience. And it's a unique opportunity in itself. And to be the Cinderella story of the 2016-17 NCAA tournament and see yourself on TV and having elementary school teachers that you haven't talked to in 15 years text you and find out that, you're on TV, and they're like, oh my God, Jen. It was like literally my 4th grade teacher, my kindergarten gym teacher. I was like, oh my God, like these, and you're making people proud. And again, you're just grateful for the opportunity to play on that kind of stage. And it takes a really connected, talented, and hardworking team to get there. And obviously our staff included. So playing in the Sweet 16 and knocking Miami out on their home floor was unbelievable. And then obviously, it ended when we went to California to play against Asia Wilson in South Carolina. But at that point we were over the moon, and we were just really proud to be able to put Quinnipiac on the map and really let people know that we're not messing around here, and again that we are that national mid-major powerhouse. And the mid-major, I don't even want to use that word.
What was it like, obviously, living out that Cinderella story, going to the Sweet 16?
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly like surreal. Like when we got back, I remember we beat Miami. So the first round game was Marquette. So we were the 12 seed, they were the 5 seed. We played at Miami, neutral site, beat Marquette. And when we won the first game, it was like that was our first, NCAA tournament win in program history. That's a big freaking deal, right? Sorry if I don't know if I can curse on here, but it was a big deal. And then when we get into game 2, though, now we're playing Miami on their home floor, and it's like, hey, like we just won one. Why can't we win another? Like the confidence was building from game to game there. And, when we had them in a tight game down the stretch, like we knew we were like, we got this. And so that moment was just, again, surreal, and just couldn't be more proud of our team. I know for Coach Fabry, like getting to that point was just unbelievable. All the time and effort that she spent building this program. So to get to a point in the season where, you're making the NCAA tournament again and winning not one game, but 2 games is pretty awesome. And I remember when we got on the plane to head back home, we got off the plane and there was just news trucks and media, and we get attention, but we don't get that kind of attention on a daily basis, right, or a weekly basis. So we got off the plane and they were like, make sure you guys are smiling, because it was really early in the morning. I'm pretty sure, if I can remember correctly, and it was like News Channel 8 and ES, like it was just these big time media trucks, and we were getting attention not only within the town of Hamden where Quinnipiac's located, but nationally.
Of course, what was it like getting into college coaching and coaching at your alma mater?
Yeah, I mean, coaching at my alma mater has been awesome. Again, like I've said it already many times, but grateful is the word that I will use to describe the situation. Having, again, the best 4 and, ended up being 5 years, like I said, as a player, to be able to come back and now give to the players that are on our team now, and to help Coach Fabry in a different capacity, right? To be on the sidelines coaching with her, as opposed to, being coached by her. It's been unbelievable. And it's been an experience that, again, I'm just so grateful for. And I realize how unique that is. Not everyone has the best college experience. I know a lot of players that didn't like their college experience, or they transferred, or, just didn't look back on college and say like, this was great. But for me, I almost feel bad when I talk about it, because that was the best 4 or 5 years of my life. And they continue to be, because I'm in a place where it's a family atmosphere. Again, the environment is so welcoming. Everyone supports each other. We do a whole lot of winning, which also helps. But the community itself, even outside the athletic department, it is really a family atmosphere. And I'm not just saying that. There's a lot of stability, a lot of loyalty, and all the Bobcat alums, we get together quite often. So it really is a true family atmosphere. So being able to come back and coach at my alma mater has been a really special experience that I'll never take for granted.
How is that transition like, from going from being a player to a coach and now coaching on the sidelines?
Yeah, so year 1 was definitely a little bit interesting. Obviously, I had that GA year. So that kind of like got me into the groove of what to expect. But year 1, like, you're fully into it. You're doing scouting reports, you're going recruiting, you're doing all the stuff. As a GA, you can only kind of do some of it. So you get a little bit of a taste, but you don't get the full experience. So year 1 was definitely like, took me for a whirlwind a little bit. In terms of the on-court stuff, I felt pretty comfortable with. I absolutely love the skill development, player development. And, if someone wants to work out, I'm there. Like that part came pretty naturally to me. But again, it was just learning like the recruiting and the compliance and all the rules that there are. It's funny because as a player, I always be like to Coach Wilson, our other assistant, I would say, what do you guys do in the office all day? Like, what do you actually do? And now that I'm on the other side of it, it's like, you have no idea what to expect. Like people think it's just, you're just coaching basketball all day, drawing up some plays. Like that's not even half the job. You're always worried about everyone else, and you have to worry about taking care of obviously what your head coach wants, but the players first and foremost and attending to their needs. So that was definitely the biggest adjustment going from player to coach. But again, just my love for the game, I feel like it's made it a lot easier as well to make that adjustment. It hasn't been as big of an adjustment in terms of just the basketball side of things.
Of course, in year one, what was that transition like from obviously having your teammates that obviously you played with and now you're coaching, and now in year three, obviously those teammates have now gone?
That's a very good observation, Brandon, that you were able to make that connection, because it's funny when I talk to people, I'm like, yeah, my first year, and actually this past year as well, I was still coaching players that I played with. So this was the last year with the COVID year and everything. So a couple of our seniors this year were freshmen when I was a senior. So they were my teammates at one point. So you might even have to ask them what they think of it. But now it really hasn't been as weird as people might think at all. I've actually really enjoyed it. Like Mac DeWeese was a freshman when I was a senior, and we have a pretty special bond. I've seen her grow from, a kid that was shy and nervous and, maybe didn't talk so much, to being this fierce, tough competitor that just absolutely loves the game. And it's been really cool to see her development, and obviously to get closer with her year after year and be able to help her achieve her goals. And we're still just hunting for that ring again to get back to that championship. So it hasn't been too big of an adjustment. It's been pretty fun actually getting to play and then see being with the same players just on the coaching side of it.
Who are some of the teams that you coach against?
So, and we play in the MAC conference. So it's the Metro Athletic Atlantic Conference. So we play against Niagara, Canisius. Those are the two Buffalo schools. So those are typically our furthest trips. Nice and cold up there. But then we'll get to Fairfield is an in-state rival for us. So they're about 40 minutes down the road. Monmouth was in our conference, but they actually just headed out to move to the Colonial Conference. And Mount St. Mary's from Maryland will be heading into our conference. Our big rival has been Marist over the years. It's been a pretty iconic championship game year in and year out. So Marist is definitely the big one for us. And then Manhattan as well. Iona, two New York schools. I'm trying to think who I'm missing right now. And I think that's it. I think that's a majority of them.
What is it going to be like, obviously, to face Fairfield as they just got a new coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime that you're going up against a program that has a new coaching staff, you don't really know what to expect, especially because she's going to be she's the first-time head coach. So for us, we don't really have any background, or we can't go to the prior team to kind of see what they were running. Obviously, she did a great job in Minnesota and is excited to be at Fairfield. And, we're excited to get to that game. And, they had an awesome season this past one, obviously bringing home the championship, and it was well-deserved. So I think she's really excited to probably be in the MAC and obviously be a head coach. And I'm sure her players are really excited to play for her. And, we're excited to see what they bring to the table. Hopefully it's not as many plays as they ran last year. That'll make our job a little easier, but no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think it'll be really exciting. Again, new program, new philosophy, and we'll see what next year brings.
What does a typical game day look like for Quinnipiac?
So a typical game day, depending on I'll go with a home game. So depending on what point of the year it is, a lot of our games are actually during winter break where there aren't any classes. So that's kind of nice. So we'll go, let's say it's a January home game. We will typically, if the game is at, let's say 7 p.m. on a Thursday night, we will typically have our shoot around, maybe around 10:30, 11 o'clock, somewhere in that time frame between 10 and 12. So for shoot around, that'll typically be an hour. We'll go over a lot of baseline plays, a lot of sideline out of bounds plays, some scout defense stuff that we didn't maybe finish up the day before. But it's really just to get everybody loose, get everyone in a great mind frame, get a ton of shots up, some skill work, but nothing too hard because we don't want to exhaust the players on game day, obviously. So yeah, again, it's just reviewing what we need to for the game that night, and then making sure our players are prepped and ready to go. So after shoot around, we'll head into a pregame meal. Typically 3.5 hours before the game is when we'll eat. So we really, again, preaching the family and the camaraderie aspect of our program. We eat together before every single game. We get around and everyone orders their meals, everyone hands out, and we're in the big team lounge, and we're just we're eating together and enjoying ourselves, and trying to just relax a little bit before the game. And then there's typically, 3 hours before game time, and the players kind of have free reign if they want to go back to their rooms and take a nap, if they want to stay at the arena and do some homework. They've got some freedom there. And then, they get back and it's game time. So they got to be back, an hour before the game. They're on the court and they're ready to go. And we're in the locker room printing up my play sheets and all that stuff. And then the lights are on and we're ready to go. So that's a typical home game day.
In your 3 years of coaching, what are some of your biggest accomplishments?
So it's funny, accomplishments. So again, I'm super young in my career still. So I don't think that my accomplishments are necessarily something that you can like see or grasp or titles or stuff like that yet. But for me personally, I think the accomplishment of just being here, and again, being grateful to be at my alma mater, to be a Division I head coach, and I'm only a head coach, be a Division I assistant coach, and only be 25 years old is an accomplishment, I think, in itself. I've put in a lot of time. I watch a lot of film. I do a lot of basketball stuff on the outside, and I've made some sacrifices, obviously, over the years. And I'm just really grateful, again, to be in the position that I am and working for Coach Fabry, who's, again, a legend in this business. So that accomplishment of itself of just being where I am is one of them. This past season, I was actually named to the 30 under 30 WBCA coaches, kind of up and coming assistant coaches in the game. So that was really exciting. Again, I don't think that necessarily titles or wordy awards like that really mean anything. It's kind of your actions that determine that. But again, it is nice to be recognized 100% in terms of getting that award. But then again, like in some of my other accomplishments are just kind of outside of the basketball court. I've started my own podcast, Brandon, which maybe we'll get you on one day. So I've got a podcast, Backyard Buckets Basketball, where I do similar things here, like talking to coaches and just learning and picking their brains and whatnot. So that's been a big accomplishment for me too, is just, being able to kind of get that off the ground and be able to balance it with all the responsibilities that come with being a coach as well. So I'd say definitely those are the accomplishments that I'd say from my early coaching experience. We're still trying to get a championship ring as a coach. That would be a big one. But yeah, being an assistant has been unbelievable so far. And my accomplishments are more about the outcomes of our players. Like, are they getting better every single day? Are they loving their experience? And they might not love it every single day, but when they graduate, are they looking back and saying, this was the best decision that I made? Did I get better this year? Did I get better this week? So I kind of try and pour my efforts into them, and their accomplishments are also my accomplishments. So I really feel really good about that. And in terms of the time and the effort that I spend with our players and just trying to make sure that they achieve their goals.
Of course, what is it like to balance? Obviously, as you said, you have a podcast and obviously you're a college coach. What is that balance like of being a college coach and a podcast host?
Yeah, well, I wish I was a little bit better at it. I'm still learning. I really have to give myself grace in terms of being okay with not putting out a podcast every week or every 2 weeks, or, sometimes skipping 3 weeks in a row. Like, I'm okay with that. Again, it's for me, the podcast, and I also have a YouTube channel as well. Like, I do a lot of extracurricular, it still all has to do with basketball, but I just love sharing the game. I love documenting things. I love filmmaking. I love editing. I love all that stuff. But for me, it's a hobby. My livelihood doesn't rely on any of that stuff. And I don't ever really want it to turn into something where I feel like if I miss a week, oh my God, I'm letting people down. So that's something that I do on the side that I absolutely love and I enjoy. But my main priority is always going to be my team, my players, my head coach, right? So all of that. So the balance is definitely hard when the season starts. I usually fall off of the podcast game a little bit and kind of let it go. But in the summer and like now, like this is the time where I can really get a lot of episodes, really connect with a lot of new coaches, which is really awesome because then I see them out on the road recruiting and I get, meeting new people. I'm still young in the business, so I really don't know that many people. So the podcast and, just reaching out and connecting with people really, really helps in terms of making some friends and having some people to go to, when things get tough as well. But during the summers, it's easy. And then during the seasons, I'd say it's pretty difficult to balance it, but I'm not overly concerned with the ratio of everything being super consistent. As long as I'm getting my real job done, that's what matters.
Have you found, obviously, as you said, with the podcast, it's helped you in your college coaching career, building that relationships?
Yeah. So just like you do, probably, I started it during the pandemic. Essentially, literally, I was at home. I was like, okay, how can I get better right now? I was doing literally outside of my backyard. I was hosting Zoom classes for kids. I have like 50,000 followers on TikTok because I just started making TikTok basketball videos. And it was when TikTok was really early. So it was a lot of younger kids and they just ate it up and loved learning. And I loved it because I was just feeling like I was teaching. I was getting better. I was learning how to actually explain things and demonstrate. Like people wouldn't believe it, but the more that you can really, practice your craft in terms of, doesn't matter who the audience is, obviously practicing your craft, but me being in front of the camera, filming myself doing a crossover in between the legs and explaining it and not having somebody right there to be able to help me out. Like that has helped my teaching when I'm now with a college basketball player who's asking me to demonstrate a move. Like I've gotten to have reps and reps and reps at speaking and at demonstrating and all of it. So wait, go back to the original question again, because I just got off a tangent.
How has your podcast helped you in your college coaching career building relationships?
Yeah. So again, when it comes back to building relationships though, it's me reaching out to people and wanting to learn from them. So my desire for knowledge, I literally will go and I'll look at the top teams. I remember that's how I started my podcast. And I was like, all right, the top teams in offense, maybe ball screen defense, certain categories, and what teams were really sticking out. Okay, so this coach from so-and-so university, they were top in zone offense. I'm going to reach out to this coach and see if maybe he'll sit down with me on a podcast and talk a little bit about zone offense, right? And like you said, we talked about it earlier, not everyone responds. Some people don't have time, and I totally get that and respect it. And some people don't want their ideas shared on the podcast. But my thing is, I feel like it's almost selfish for me to have such a valuable conversation without sharing it with the rest of the coaches, because that's what I do. Every day I wake up, I listen to a podcast. There's at least one or two a day that I go through. So the fact that I was just like, I kind of just want to start my own, because sometimes people don't ask the questions that I would want to ask. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this thing on my own. So that's really how it's helped me connect with people. And then, like I said, I have somebody on the podcast, and that's a relationship now. Obviously, you have to maintain the relationship, and you have to reach out and obviously provide value for that person as well. You can't just ask. You got to give something in return. But it's been awesome, because a lot of those people that I've had really insightful conversations with, I've met out on the road, and maybe we got a bite to eat. Maybe they knew about a position, or I heard about a position for them. It's really been it's cool to see those kind of relationships that start on Zoom kind of end up in person and really come together.
Of course, what does the recruitment process look like for prospective student athletes looking to play college basketball?
So it looks a little different for everybody depending on the school, I'd say, but these days it's actually starting earlier and earlier. So when I was in high school, I don't think I actually spoke to a college coach till I was at least a sophomore, maybe a junior. I can't really remember exactly, but at this point in time, freshmen are on the phones. It's crazy. You got 2025 teams who just finished their freshman year of high school or already thinking about colleges, and it's just part of the game, and you got to adapt. So obviously everyone's trying to get in university wise as early as possible to make relationships and build relationships with younger kids. So it's starting really early, and then visits are starting by freshman, sophomore year. There's recruits coming to campuses on official visits. And then obviously the relationship keeps growing. And every summer for AAU, you go out there and you watch and you build a relationship, not just with the assistants, but especially with the head coach. And then over time, obviously you got to narrow down your list and figure out what's the best fit, and, make sure you're looking at things for the right reasons. And it's been crazier and crazier with all the rule changes with the NIL and the portal and stuff. So it's been interesting, but that's kind of how the process goes. Obviously it's a long process, and most kids by the time they're juniors and seniors are just I want to be done. I want to figure out where I'm going. So that's pretty much how it looks. So from a general outline.
What does the official visit look like for prospective student athletes? And as a coach, what is it like obviously seeing those recruits get to try on the same jersey you tried on?
Yeah, so for official visits, we actually haven't had since COVID. We haven't had an official visit in almost 2 years now. So probably going to have one, coming up in the fall, a couple. But I can speak more to the unofficial visit, which is pretty similar. It's just not overnight, not as long. But yeah, typically, they'll come up, spend the day with the team. So we love to have our recruits come up when the team is present. So right now, all our players are home, so we won't really have too many visits. I think it's really important for a player to really engage with the team and see how they fit amongst, their future potential teammates. So that's really big. So we'd love to have a recruit come up and obviously tour campus, tour our arena and our facilities, because we do have, I'd say probably one of the nicer facilities in our conference. And that's definitely a selling point for us, as well as our campus. And then we definitely want them to be able to watch a practice or a workout. So, their families will sit, they'll come courtside and they'll watch us practice, watch us play a little bit. And I think that's important to see the style of play, the style of coaching. How does the team kind of interact? Are they having fun? Do they look miserable? Are they running a lot? Like what's the situation there? So that's typically how it'll look. And, we'll grab a meal, whether it's like a lunch or something, we'll try and, engage the players with the team a little bit, get some team time off of the court. And then an unofficial visit, it kind of wraps up there. There's not too much to it. Again, the rules are a little bit more restrictive. You can't pay for anything. You can't have them stay overnight. But again, it's just the experience of getting to campus and getting a feel for everything. And then ideally, they say yes, or they're not interested. It's one or the other usually, where you continue to build that relationship throughout the course of the next couple of years. And then, the official visits are where it really gets a little bit more big time.
What advice would you give high school athletes looking to go into college women's basketball?
I would say is just don't compare yourself to anyone else. I think as a freshman and sophomore, it's easy now, especially nowadays, because it's getting younger and younger, right? If you're a sophomore right now and a couple of your teammates or your friends, maybe you play on a really good AAU team where everyone's kind of getting recruited and you feel like you're kind of behind a little bit. Maybe your best friend's got a couple offers and you don't yet. Maybe you're just on the phone, but no one's offering you. Like, don't compare where you are now to where your friends are at the same point too, right? Like you've got to create your own path. You've got to write your own story. And you've got to figure out where you can bring value. So I think you really need to sit back and kind of reflect on, okay, what team am I on? What does this team need? What can I bring to the table? Because sometimes you're on a team that's loaded with a lot of talent, and you've got to make sure that you can find a way to stand out somehow, right? So that you're not getting completely overlooked. And you want to make sure that you're valuable to obviously your team. So I think it is like doing a little bit of a self-reflection of, what can I bring to the table? What do coaches want to see? And then at the same time, making sure that you're playing in competitive tournaments, especially AAU. Like if you've got to be on a team that's going to get out and get exposure to the big time tournaments where college coaches are. And same, if you're not playing on a great AAU team, then you better be on a pretty good high school team, because you've got to be able to obviously advertise yourself and market yourself to coaches. But at the same time, you want coaches to also be flocking to you. So the better the team that you play on, the easier it is to usually find you. But at the same time, you've got to make sure that you leave your mark out there. Even if you're getting 10 minutes a game, like I got to know that you're going to go in the game and you're going to do X, Y, and Z for me in those 10 minutes. So I think that's the best piece of advice is don't compare yourself. It's a long process, and make sure that you're just looking at things for the right reasons, and you're trusting the people around you and that you've got good people around you.
What advice would you give college basketball players looking to go to the WNBA or Athletes Unlimited?
I don't know if I can give any advice to this because I did not go to that level, or I have not coached at that level either yet. We actually had a couple years ago, Stella Johnson from Rider University, who I forgot to mention is also in our conference. She actually was drafted and was able to get to the WNBA. So that was a pretty cool thing for our league. But in terms of just going to play professionally, we've had a handful of players go play overseas. So I guess I can speak to that more. And I think it's about finding a great agent. Somebody that's really going to be invested in you, cares about you, is going to be able to get you a good deal. And then secondly, it's like, how bad do you want it? You got to put in the work afterwards, right? If you have a pretty decent career, yeah, you'll have a better shot of playing overseas, but you've got to be willing to put in the extra hours. You've got to be willing to leave the country and maybe get paid a little less than you thought. But if you love the game and that's what you want to do and you want to keep playing, I think that it definitely can be worth it, because I know people have had some unbelievable experiences overseas, and we've had a number of alumni go overseas to Europe or wherever, and honestly have great careers and have loved their experience seeing a different culture and a different side of things. So I just think it's really going to be your decision of being all in on it, and obviously being willing to make it work.
What advice would you give future college coaches looking to go coach at their alma mater just like you did?
It would definitely be to just be grateful and realize the unique opportunity that you have to be at a place that you played at. So you know it probably better than anybody else because you were a student there. You went to class there. You ate lunch in the cafeterias, right? You went out in the city and did whatever you needed to do, right? Like you went shopping, you know the area. all that. I think it's just, again, such a unique opportunity that I wish every player who obviously loved their experience in college would get, just like me, because, you get to leave your mark not only on the university in a different capacity, but on the players that you're now coaching, and you can really help be the catalyst in terms of teaching and understanding the system, assuming that you're playing for the same staff. Like, the school better than anybody. When recruits come to visit, I'm like, yeah, this is where you live as a freshman, sophomore, right? And I can tell all the little details that maybe someone who wasn't a student there might not know. So it's a really special opportunity, and one that you can never take for granted. And I know that I won't. So always thank your head coach, if you're working for your head coach, that you played for at the same time, because it's a really special opportunity. And yeah, definitely don't take it lightly. And if you do have the opportunity to do it, I would highly recommend.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with Quinnipiac women's basketball program?
Yeah, so on Twitter, we are QU_WBB, or just type in Quinnipiac women's basketball. We've got a nice little Twitter page there. We also have a recruiting page. I think it's QUWBB_recruit. And then for me, my Twitter, that's mostly just about Quinnipiac stuff, is Jen Fay _QU. And then I also have my podcast, which is Backyard Buckets Basketball, and I have a little Twitter that goes along with that, and that's Backyard B-Ball _. So a little bit of X's and O's, a little bit of basketball stuff on that podcast, and then the other one is strictly Quinnipiac basketball. So that's where you can find me. Also on YouTube, Jen Fay. If you like a day in the life vlog, a little if you ask me what a day in the life looks like on a game day, got plenty of videos right there to support it. So.
Thank you again, Coach Jen Fay, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with Quinnipiac.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon. And you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Jen Fay, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Awesome, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.